All right, let's turn to Zechariah chapter 5. Zechariah chapter 5. While you find that Zechariah 5, let me say, I believe that people don't believe in UFOs are mentally unbalanced. I think by the time 5 million people have seen something and borne witness to it, it's there. After all, in the court of law, you have to get 2 or 3. There have been 5 million people seeing UFOs, and there's no way in the world to say they're all deluded. I think they're there. I just don't think the Air Force is there. I think the Air Force is going to Argentina. Did you know the folks in Granada, Spain were afflicted by so many UFOs in 1977, they asked the UN General Assembly to set up a UN agency to investigate them, and nobody in the UN was interested. All interested in Taiwan and Formosa and Afghanistan, Iraq and Iran, the Near East and the Far West and all that junk. And there's something going on they can't even handle. They can't even handle. We'll talk about that today. On Zechariah 5:1. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. That'd be something to see. And he said to me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. Bible's always real plain. And I answered and said, I see a flying roll. The length thereof was 20 cubits, the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. And I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter the house of the thief, into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Now here's a flying scroll like a window shade wrapped up, and it's got writing on the front and back of it. The thing's about this long here and about this wide. And this thing is sailing through the air, and when it goes into a house, it rots everything in the house. And then somebody says, what's that? It's a UFO. What's a UFO? An unidentified flying object, amen? Has anybody got that thing identified? I never met anybody ever identified it. That is an unidentified flying object. It doesn't have to be a saucer to be a UFO. If it's unidentified, it's a UFO. Verse 5. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said to me, lift up now thine eyes and see what is this that goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, this an ephah that goeth forth. And he said, moreover, this is their resemblance throughout all the earth. And he shows it. There was lifted up a town of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, this is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Then lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings. For they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said to me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own base. Here's something fly along up in the air, looks like a bushel basket. And the thing flies along, and about that time a woman pops out of the middle of that thing, sitting there. The fella comes along, takes a lead cover like a manhole cover, and slaps it down on top of that bushel basket so the woman doesn't show. And when he slaps down that lead on top of there, 2 women come out of that basket with wings like a stork. And that's why when you see pictures of angels, they're always drawn as long-haired women with stork wings. And that's why they talk about babies coming. They talk about the stork coming. You see, you never get away from the King James Bible. And these things that fly along here are not angels because they're women. They're not men. They're not angels because angels don't have wings, and these things have wings. And they picked this bushel basket up and they carried it off to around Iran and Afghanistan and put it down there. You say, what is that? That's a UFO. You say, well, can you give us any more information than that? No, I can't, because it's unidentified. That's an unidentified flying object. Now, when they talk about these things, mostly they talk about Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 10, about Ezekiel's vision. But I'm not going that because that's well known. But up and down America today, there's no end to literature about unidentified flying objects, and some of these fellows have gone so far as to say that Jesus Christ came down here in a UFO. I've read articles where he went back to the Mount of Olives in a UFO. I've read articles where God came down to Mount Sinai and gave the 10 Commandments from a UFO, which is wild, crazy stuff when you think about it. I mean, when did a UFO occupant ever say, thou shalt not steal? I never heard that before. Who ever heard of a UFO occupant telling you about the restoration of Israel like Ezekiel did? Who ever heard of a UFO occupant going back to heaven and saying, you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, not a most parts thereof? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But I do believe in UFOs, and I'm going to talk about that this morning from the Bible and from other sources. Now, Father, may the Holy Spirit who came here to guide me just in all truth, guide me just in all truth. We don't want to be sensational for the sake of being sensationalists. We don't want to be extremists for the point of getting attention. We want to know the truth and what the truth is. You said the truth shall make us free. And Lord, we want the truth in every field as well as the Bible field. And we look to Thee in this hour to give us wisdom and understanding, and give us knowledge, give us discernment, and this congregation. For Jesus' sake, amen. Amen. All right, UFOs, first of all, have biblical documentation. If you want to write down the references are, first of all, in Zechariah 5, where we just were. Then they're in Isaiah chapter 28, verse 19 to 21. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 19 to 21. And 2 Samuel 5, verse 20 to 23. 2 Samuel 5, verse 20 to 23. And Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 10. There's no new thing under the sun. And if it's up there, it's in the Bible. It's in here. If the thing is there, it'll show up here. I have no sympathy at all. These folks keep alibying away UFOs like they don't exist. I know they exist. I don't think some seagull is flying around at night with a flashlight in his mouth. All the stuff people are saying. One of these famous scientists, he said, sometimes I think we're alone in the universe, and sometimes I think we're not. And either way, the thought is terrifying. It doesn't terrify me. I know we're not alone in the universe. I'm not even alone here on the ground. I've got the Lord with me. Now, I'm not worried about something from outer space, because I'm going up before He comes down. But they have biblical documentation. All right, they have historical documentation. I'll be as brief as possible. Pliny the Elder in the Naturalis Historia, Natural History, writes about them. Seneca in his Questiononium Naturarum, Questions of Nature, writes about them. Before the time of Christ, Julian wrote about them. After the time of Christ, Tito Livio, Renato Gatto, Roberto Pinato, Herodian the Syrian, 170 A.D. And when these people write about UFOs, they call them fireballs, or they call them suns or moons. And when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 A.D., there were fireballs and suns and moons all around that thing. Whatever UFOs are, they've been around for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. In Plutarch's Lives, the life of Caesar, 200 A.D., you'll find a reference to UFOs. In Bede's Historia Ecclesiastica Gentis Anglorium, the history of the Gentile church, the English church, 900 A.D., you find a reference. Gregory of Tours' Historia Francorum, History of France, has a reference to them. In 810, Vita Caroli by Alcivan has a reference to them. If you have a copy of Shakespeare, when you go home, get out your Shakespeare and look in Henry VI, Act 3. And Henry VI, Act 3 is a UFO. If you can get a hold of a copy of Columbus' Diary, when Christopher Columbus came to America at 10 p.m., October the 11th, 1492, is an entry in the ship's log on a UFO. And when Columbus sails for America, he sails right into the center of the Bermuda Triangle. That's where he comes. When that old boy leaves and finds that passage, he is guided man, and he lands right in the middle of it. Jose Bonilla was the first man to photograph UFOs. I've got his photograph at home, taken in 1883, August the 12th. The photograph shows 150 flying cigars. I mean, those things are shaped just like stogies. And there's 150 of them in a row, and they're in perfect formation. They don't have any rough edges. It's not a cloud formation, not a cloud bank. It's something. Do you realize after 1883 they began to build dirigibles? And they build them shaped just like a cigar. Whatever those things were, they can move faster than an airplane can move now. 1883. I have at home almost 200 photographs of UFOs. I guess about half of them are faked. Suppose half of them are fake. What you going to do with the other half? I've got photographs of UFOs from Japan, New Zealand, Australia, China, Czechoslovakia, Germany, Bulgaria, Russia, Sweden, Norway, Argentina, Brazil, anywhere on this earth, you name it. Somebody got a photograph of a UFO. If you have John Wesley's journal, you'll find a reference to a UFO in John Wesley's journal. And it's represented as something that comes out of the water and spins and travels out across the land over there in North Ireland. UFOs have been around. They've been documented in history. That isn't all. They not only have biblical documentation and historical documentation, they have experimental documentation. By that I mean UFOs have been seen, they've been tracked, they've been photographed, they've been entered, they've been chased, they've been shot at, they've been collided with. Now, when you watch a UFO show, all you see is some stupid little thing Hollywood put out, you know, third encounters of the Frankenstein kind, all that. Or else you see somebody with a required reporter giving somebody a microphone, and they say, well, I was out there in the backyard putting them along, and I saw this here thing come down the field. But it isn't like that. It isn't like that. You know who's seen UFOs? 11 Air Force observers, captains, majors, and colonels. 6 naval observers, captains, commanders, lieutenant commanders. 4 Marine Corps officers, majors, and captains. 5 Army observers. 14 scientists and engineers. 40 airline pilots. The President of the United States and the Secretary of the Navy. Fellow doesn't believe in UFOs, something's wrong. They've been mentally unbalanced. These fellows are aerial spotters. These aren't just Navy or Air Corps men. These are Air Force aerial observers. And they all crazy. You know, I've been around for a good while, and I've observed some things that, I mean, the news doesn't get in the paper. Did you know something? I've been flying since 1946. That's, 33, 35 years, something like that in there, or longer than that. And when I first began to fly, Pensacola was a cardboard shack, man. And you take Atlanta was a plywood shack, and there weren't any jets. There weren't any turboprops that were left over DC-5s and 7s from World War II. When I first began to fly, that thing was just a big plywood runway with a bunch of light bulbs screwed in the top of the thing. And something like for 20 years I'd fly those planes, they'd say, on the takeoff and the landing, fasten your seatbelt. And as soon as you're in there, you could take your seatbelt off. And if they're expecting turbulence, they say, we're expecting some turbulence up here, fasten your seatbelt. I've ridden the Bucking Broncos, Piedmont Airlines, and Mohawk, and Allegheny, and Lake Central, and North Central, and Texarkana, and those little old DC-1s, and ridden those things, and you never had to fasten your seatbelt unless you landed or taken off, unless you went through a thunderhead someplace. You know what happened? Long about 1964, 65, someplace, and you got... I mean, I know. I've been up so very long, man, I sprouted wings. I'd go through that thing. I could, if you want to get a plane in Atlanta, I'll take you there and put you on the thing. You don't have to look at the signboard. You take about 1964 or 65, I got in that plane, and he said, for your convenience, please keep your seatbelt fastened while you're seated. Well, now, isn't that a dumb thing to tell somebody? Your convenience to keep, is it convenient to be strapped in like you're in a cage all the time you're flying? How's that for your convenience? Whatever the guy says for your convenience is for his. You better learn that. There's some of these cards saying don't fold, mutilate, or, or bend. I fold them and send them back and say for your convenience. It's folded. Now listen, you know why that fellow said keep in that seat? Because about a year before they began to do that, a plane injured 17 passengers doing a flip trying to get out of the way of a UFO. Commercial airline. Passengers thrown all over the plane. Now, every year for 15 years, you know what they say? Well, I've been in a jet stream, 35,000 feet. And the guy says, in case of turbulence, come on, man. That thing is flying smoother than a Greyhound bus. That thing up there, 36,000 feet, it's just going like that. What do you got your seat buckle fastened for? You know what the trouble is? That airline pilot is bugged, boy. He's got the jitters. How many of them? 40 of them. 40 of them. 40 commercial airline pilots on TWA, Eastern American Pan Am, have seen UFOs. You tell me they're not there? They've been seen. They've been photographed. They've been shot at. The radar at Tampa, May 1970, shows 2 UFOs flying through the traffic pattern, and the guys in the tower watched them out of the window for 35 minutes. Captain Alexander Rabb, March 18, 1972, in a DC-9, Austrian Airlines near Linz, Austria, was nearly hit twice by a white crimson funnel at 21,000 feet, and Captain Norbert Steiber, Lufthansa, Germany, flying a 737, was nearly hit. And at one time, 8 million Englishmen saw a film of an object on TV, a documentary filmed by Noel Smart. 8 million Englishmen saw that object and almost hit that fellow in Louisiana. 8 million Englishmen saw that thing. There's any question about whether or not they've been seen. They've been seen, they've been photographed. The evidence doesn't just lie with people going out in the backyard. In January 1975, a squadron of UFOs over a half the length of Japan paraded around, everybody watched them. People saw them in cities 700 miles apart. Nothing appeared in radar. although there were 500 telephone calls about it and jammed switchboards, about 20 objects flying in formation, and the central control room of Tokyo's Meteorological Bureau near the airport, the fellow put the radar on all 20 of them, and the radar wouldn't pick up nothing. You can see what you can't pick up on radar. Captain Thomas Mantle and a crew in the F-51, January the 7th, 1948, chased a UFO to 17,000 feet, tracked by the Ruckman Tower at Fort Knox, Kentucky. It was metallic and tremendous in size. The plane, the F-51, disappeared at 3:18, and they found that plane splattered over a half a mile. That's a commissioned officer in a government plane hitting a UFO. How come they don't show you that kind of stuff or go into it? Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Carswell Air Force Base, 1965, tracked one 45 minutes, an altitude of 8,000 feet. The Air Force Base at Duluth, Minnesota, tracked 10 of them flying in a V formation, July of 65, at 9,000 miles an hour. There isn't any question about them being there. They've been seen, they've been photographed, they've been shot at, they've been tracked, they've been hit. There isn't any question about them being there. Man doesn't believe in there is mentally sick, ought to go to the nut house. Lieutenant Felix Mondesi vanished after colliding with the UFO. Both were tracked by the radar from Kimrose Field, November 23rd, 1953. He was flying an F-89. A UFO went on, leaving no debris or parts of the wreckage. After that collision, they never found anything. But it was gone. Here's a wild one here. B-47, October 1955, was down with one man alive in Lovington, New Mexico. A ball of fire appeared beside the plane right before the crash. The identical thing happened in Texas 2 weeks later. All the personnel in the military transport on a routine flight from San Diego to Honolulu, summer of '39, landed 3 hours later in an emergency landing in San Diego with everybody dead aboard, and the men who touched the craft outside got burnt and got skin infections. They found large gaping wounds on all the corpses. The shells of all the 45 lay on the floor, unshot, nothing, not a shot fired, and there was smell over the inside of the plane like hydrogen sulfide inside the plane. Brimstone, rotten eggs over inside the plane. First, second, third encounters. I have back in my library, I have 47 books on UFOs. 47. I've got cases there where people said they've not been entered, they've not have been tracked and photographed and seen, they've been entered. I don't know if they've been entered or not. There's a fellow up in Nebraska named Shermer, and Shermer claims he was on one, and they told him how the thing operated. They said it was built out of magnesium. Said it operated on magnesium. And he said this. He said the way that thing took corners so fast at 2,000 miles an hour was real simple. He said it was an outside disc rotating like this, and an inside disc that could rotate the same way at the same speed, or the same way at a different speed, or rotate opposite at the same speed, or opposite at a different speed. And he drew diagrams to show when that outside object went like that, the people inside the compartment were making the turn like this, while the thing inside is spinning at a different rate. I was up in Canton, Ohio, where I go once in a while. I have a fellow up there who's a UFO bug. He's always giving me stuff on it, UFO reports. And he says he knows a fellow there in Canton, Ohio, who worked for Goodrich Company, that claimed he flew from Canton, Ohio to L.A. in a UFO. Flight time was 12 minutes, which is pretty good flying time. And he said the thing was made by a German inventor, and the guy who invented the thing came over here, never made blueprints on it, and wouldn't put down on paper what he knew. Now, I don't know with you how much you can put in all that kind of stuff, but I know they're there. I know this, too. I know if you could bend light rays, you could pick up something that couldn't be picked up on a UFO or on a radar. Look at here. I'm standing here like this. Now, suppose I could take these light rays behind me and wrap them around me this way. See? And then when you look at me, you'd see what was behind me. I mean, that's what Einstein said. He was crazy, you know, but he had one or two facts. You never met a nuttier fellow, just nutty in a fruitcake, you know. I mean, if you knew how to do that, what would you get out of that? Poor Einstein worked all his life and all he got was an atom bomb. Boy, what a mind. And so you get this light ray around here, you bend around yourself like this, then you see what's behind you. Now, I don't know if they can do that or not, but if they can bend light rays, they get away with it. I know this. October the 10th, October the 20th, 1943, they left out of the Philadelphia Navy Yard at Newport News, Virginia, a ship called the USS Eldridge, a DEI 173. Now, I don't know what a DEI 173 is, you know. Well, that's dogs, emeralds, and ice, or what that thing, a DEI, whatever that is. Well, Little John knows what it is. 173. And when that thing got back after 10 days in the North Atlantic, some of the crew took their Section 8, some of them blew out the brains, some of them went one way, one another, most of them didn't stay in the Navy, and a bunch of them came around a fellow named Dr. Manson Valentine and sat down and talked with him about these things, and hear what they said. I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but I'll tell you what they said. They said they got out there and they were experimenting in light bending equipment. And they got out there and nobody knew what they were doing. They were all greenhorns and just doing it from nothing. And they said they got out there and got fooling all this equipment, bending light rays, and after a while they got to a place where a guy would be walking on the deck like this and look down below him, and there'd be water below him and no deck. And after a while, some of the guys getting hysterical. The guy would be coming down the companionway and see a guy walking in front of him, and the guy would stop like that and freeze. And they go up to him and give him artificial respiration, hug him, you know, and then they'd come back and get moving again. And they decided they didn't know enough about that thing to fool with it, and they quit fooling with it and came on back and dropped it. Now, I don't know how much that's so, how much that's not so, but I'm sure scientists always talking about being advanced as they are and always getting ahead. I'm sure somebody's messed with that stuff. All right, they've been shot at, they've been collided with, they've been entered. Now, about folks say, have you seen the UFO? I've lost track of them. I've lost track of them. I don't know how many I've seen. If you want to see UFOs, go down the beach on a summer night. Sleep on the beach down here. Go down July or June and lie down flat on your back and look up and watch the parade, man. I mean, that old light will go and it'll stop. It'll stop. They aren't. I mean, I'm no expert, but I know a plane got green, red lights on it. And when it lands, it puts on a big one coming down the field, you know. I've seen a few things in my time. I think it'll go like that, and it'll stop. And then it'll go, and it'll stop. I've seen the satellites go around, and they weave like that, you know. And they all go, you know, west to east when they go. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a light that goes, and it stops. And you watch that thing get a bearing that thing with the stars, and look back there 15 minutes later, and it's still there. And 20 minutes later, and it's still there. And 25 minutes later, goes off over here and stops. How many ever seen anything like that? Let me see your hands. There's 50 people right there. Now, if you don't believe it, go out to Texas. I mean, the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. And you get out there around San Antonio and El Paso, and get out there in a clear summer night, lie on your back, and they'll show up. They'll show up. You say, how many you seen? I guess by number maybe 35, 40, something like that. One night, Brother McGee and I are coming out here to school, or driving up this road up here, and we saw what looked like the evening star sitting over there. I know the evening star. I know the morning star. I know they bright, shine, restless. You've seen all that kind of stuff. You get, you know, in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock, you know what's going on. And that old thing sits over there, and pretty soon that thing begins to move. It ain't no star. And that thing moves off this way and goes, I mean, horizon to horizon, 8 seconds. Pretty fast. Nothing blinking. No noise. No jet. No helicopter. No rotor. Wherever that thing is going as far as you can see, both directions, you know, just a matter of seconds. Things moving. I was out fishing one time in Tampa Bay along about 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night after a Monday night service and a meeting down there. Had the pastor with me and about 8 of these young men, and a couple of them know how to throw nets. There were about 10 of us down there. And we out there in Tampa Bay fishing for mullet. And every now and then you get a snook. You know, it's illegal to net snook. So when they catch them down there, they call them smullet. We're out there, you know, trying to catch those fish, and boy, about that time, prettiest yellow lights you ever saw starts over here, and it goes right over that bay. I mean, a quarter of a mile from us. There are 10 people just watching it. No blinkers, no green lights, no red lights, no cabin windows, no rotor, no prop, no turbo, no nothing. Just as quiet as you ever saw before. Out of sight, 5 or 6 seconds. One night, I and my wife both woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning. Didn't know what to do. We checked on each other, you know, how the thing happened. But about 2 o'clock in the morning, we woke up, both at the same time. Just kind of a feeling you get around the house or something. And about that time, up over the top of that house. Now, I live next to the airport. I know where Nashville goes and where Eastern goes. I know when he's going to win and Banks go to Birmingham, when he goes to win and Banks to New Orleans. I've been up those things for so long. I've been up there long and a seagull with sore feet. And when that guy takes off and heads for Panama City, I know which way he's going and what time he goes, and he goes over the house. That thing didn't go over the house. That thing started over the house. Whatever that thing was right above the house. And then it took off. Well, I read in the paper about 3 weeks later where the Army or Navy or somebody had developed a machine like that. They got some flying machine now that can come to a stop midair like that and then roar off like that, see? So I'm not superstitious. But I've seen some things. Now you take out this scoop. You take out this scoop. You know, they put a power line out back here. We first put up this little old brick cement block building. And I hate power lines. I don't like power lines of power companies. Somebody's going to put in a payload station next to me of 660,000 volts. I don't like it. Nothing you can do about it, you know. They own your body and soul anyway. And they put that thing through there. I said to some fellow who was an electrician, what if one of those lines came off here? He said, if that charge ever hit this building, it'd take these cement blocks and melt them. I don't like anything going by that close. Well, that thing went by like that, and I was down in that little old shack down there in Rawson Lane, or East St. John was in those days. And I was down there, and boy, in comes a couple of our students who lived in a trailer out here. Now, they're scared to death. And I say, what's the matter? I say, Brother Pete, the electricity, all that field out there. I said, what do you mean? They said, we got out and thought about running, you know, and walking up to the property, but you got electricity, the field got electricity all over out there at the property. And so they got in the car and took off. And about that time when we're talking, boom, man. I mean, the sky lights up, and everybody gets a shaking up. Something goes off. They get driving out of here, and here's a fire over here in this plant right across the street behind your back there about 200 yards. And the forest burn off over here in this highway right over here about 100 yards across the way. And up comes the Pensacola News Journal next morning and says, UFO seen going off over East Hill. Well, they asked around, and somebody said, what the trouble was? Somebody said, well, a helicopter crashed into them. No wreckage of a helicopter. Well, a plane hit the wires when your flights up that night. They're always trying to think of something. You say you believe that was one of those flying saucers? I don't know. I'll tell you what it was. It was a UFO. It was an unidentified flying object, whatever that thing was. You know, it happened about 4 years ago. They had a big blackout up in New England. Big blackout. And somebody said, what happened? And a guy said, lightning hit 4 times in the same place. I don't believe that. All right, finally, these UFOs have certain characteristics, and I'll talk about them for a while. Now, you understand when I say this, I'm talking about eyewitnesses and testimonies, things I've picked up from here and there. First of all, whatever these things are, they seem to be interested in blood. They've been known to follow blood bank cars, and out where I preach, out in Tacoma, Oklahoma, and out in Abilene, Texas, and out in Graham, Texas. You know, you don't have to worry about the newspaper. I've seen them up there in Memphis, Tennessee, you know, taking the calves out to bury them because they couldn't get a price for them. They're packages that one church gets down there in Honduras. Now, I don't mean more than one church. One church gets all the care packages out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. See, I mean, you can go down to the dock and find the CA written on the package. You see. And I was out there in West Texas, and here's this thing where they find these cows lying around, horses, all the blood gone out of them. Sometimes the organs removed without an incision. All the blood gone, you can't find where the thing was cut. Somebody said, well, it's a bunch of high school kids, a college kid with a satanic cult. I wouldn't bet on that. Over half the people said they got in those things, said they had their skin pricked someplace, some kind of feeling. Somebody's taking samples, if they're there. Somebody's interested in blood. Somebody's interested in sulfur. You know where sulfur comes from? It doesn't come from Jupiter. It doesn't come from Venus. It doesn't come from outer space. It comes from under your feet. You know what the word for that is in the Bible? It's brimstone. You know what it smells like? Like rotten eggs. And you ever have a sulfide burner there for burning that stuff there in a chemistry lab? You remember you had to hang a little sign on it saying this burner's on? You know why? Because that's a fire where it looks like outer darkness. You see? It's a fire without light. Now you take sulfur ships, they used to come down the Mississippi like they don't much anymore, and they'd come across around Miami and go up the coast that way, which they don't much anymore, and every now and then one of them just disappear. Up there in Chesapeake Bay about 6 years ago, I got a report from one of my students of a newspaper article where a big old flat top was going up Chesapeake Bay with a load of sulfur, and it just tipped up like that and lost all the load. You know, it's quite something to take a whaleback ore carrier, an iron ore carrier, and take it up and tip it up like that. You don't find many boats like that that tip up like that. I mean, you might find a hurricane put one up on the beach, but you don't find an iron boat that tips up like that on those flat ones. But that did. They're interested in sulfur. They're interested in magnesium. They're interested in water and electricity, whatever those things are. Whatever those things are, they have been known to go in and out of water. When they come out of the water, they come out like this, I guess. That even might start an air current going. You know, if that thing was big enough and going fast enough, it could get an air current going. You know, like that? Isn't that funny how all those hurricanes come from the same place? They're interested in water. They're interested in electricity. Somebody said, well, those things are angels. No angel's interested in electricity. No angel has to have electricity. I saw something in the paper the other day, Carl McIntyre's paper, about the good angels helping the Jews out, you know, and maybe the good angels and the UFOs, maybe they were good angels coming down to help you out. And angels don't need any UFO. Angels in the Bible go up in pillars of fire, and they go up to heaven and back in less than, 20 or 30 minutes. They don't need any UFO. Whoever an angel in the Bible needed a UFO. They don't need a re-entry capsule, all that kind of stuff. They're not angels. Our first boys that ever saw UFOs were fighting in Korea. They call them Foo Fighters. They noticed up there fighting the planes. Sometimes the things would show up in the air flying by them that didn't look exactly like planes. When a fellow gets near one of these things, something goes wrong with his flashlight. He's got a battery. Something goes wrong with his mining cap. He's got a battery in his head. Something goes wrong with his ignition. Anybody got near one of these things in a car, something went wrong with the radio. Anybody got near one on an airplane, something went wrong with the radio. Something goes wrong with electricity. I have never trusted electricity either. I think it's of the devil. If you don't believe in demons, you ought to get in tape work. If you don't believe in demons, you ought to get in recording Christian tapes. And you'll believe in them before you get through. All right? Whoever these things are in these UFOs, they're varied or stunted. By that I mean of all the accounts I have, these things, some of them are 6 feet, 6 feet 2, 5 feet 1, 5 feet 4, 4 feet 6, 3 feet 9, but most of them are given as under 5 feet. Most of them between 3 and 4 feet. I have some accounts that say they wore black uniforms. I have some accounts that say they had splayed feet like a frog. I have some accounts that say they were slick and black like a eel skin. I have some accounts that say they had a mouth but no nose. One said he had a nose and a mouth but no eyes. One said he had the eyes but no ears. When these two guys down in Pascagoula, Mississippi got in the UFO, they got a thing there that had a nose on that looked like a carrot coming out. And no mouth, couple of eyes. So they're varied. Whatever those things are, they're not all from the same place. Whatever those things are, they seem to be kind of half mechanical and half monster. Somebody said they're humanoids. No, they're not humanoids. They're inferior to human people, evidently, whatever those things are. If they have superior knowledge, evidently they got it from someplace else. Those things are inferior. They seem to flop. They seem to grunt. They seem to move mechanically like somebody got them on a switchboard. You people that are so gullible, you believe everything you read in the newspaper. Did you see Star Wars? I didn't. Just think, I've missed Star Wars and Jaws. Gee, what a tragedy. You know what you had in Star Wars? You had a man going on like this. And right behind the man, there was a machine just like a man coming on right behind him. And right behind that machine, there was an animal like a man coming along right behind him. And right by him was a machine that looked like a machine. You had all four of them in all grades. It's almost like somebody had kind of mixed them, you know. Maybe reproduced the man and the animal together, and then maybe the animal and the machine together, you know, something like that. And these things are varied. They have all different kinds of voices. They have all different kinds of movement, but most of them are given as stunted. I'll tell you some things you know about them for sure. Number one, none of them have a concern for souls. Did you ever run into a UFO occupant that told somebody how to get saved? They don't have a concern for souls. You say, what am I going to do if one of those things shows up in my backyard? I know what you're going to do. I know what I'd do. I mean, if I looked out my window one night and saw little green things come across the yard to get me, and a blue glow out in the Noonan Construction Company, I know what I'd do. I'd put my finger right out that thing right on it. and say, in the name of Jesus Christ, you unclean spirit, you devil, in the name of Jehovah God, and by the blood of his Son, get out. And I'd find out what made that thing work. I bet I'd blow every fuse in it. All right, now where are these things from? In conclusion, where are these things from? Well, they can only be from one of three places. They're either extraterrestrial or terrestrial or intraterrestrial, which is a long way of saying upstairs, downstairs, or in the middle. Those things are from outer space, or they're from on this earth or from under this earth. Now eliminate some things. I don't think they're on this earth. If those things come from on this earth, it's a bunch of Germans down in Argentina playing rocket, if that's what that thing is. I don't think they're from here. I don't think they're from outer space. Now, if they are from outer space, they might be. They don't manifest a thing like outer space. If they're a superior civilization from outer space, what do they need electricity and water for? If they're a superior civilization, knows all about man, what are they interested in blood for? They know what blood is. I mean, every angel in heaven knows what blood is. The cherubim bend over the mercy seat and look at it. Any problem there? You say, where do you think they're from? Take your Bible and turn to Revelation chapter 9. Maybe the Bible doesn't have a lot of things in it, but I'll tell you one thing it's got in it. It's got something coming up from downstairs that looks just like Star Wars, only worse. Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9, verse 2. And if it comes up from the bottom, it comes up from sulfur. Revelation 9, you see the word brimstone, verse 18. See it? Verse 18, brimstone. You see the word brimstone, verse 17? Brimstone. See it? You see verse 11? That's Charles Manson's life verse. Charlie Manson said that was him. He said he was the angel of Revelation 9, verse 11. All right, chapter 9, verse 2, he opened the bottomless pit. There rose a smoke out of the pit, at the smoke of a great furnace. What comes out? Verse 3, locusts. But my, what locusts? Verse 7, they looked like horses. They had faces like men. They had hair like women. They had teeth like lions. And they had wings. Winged horses that look like men, women, and lions. You know what those are? They're monsters. Those things are mutations. They're deformed. Those things are monstrosities. What the devil is getting you ready for is to receive the monsters. You got your happy little monsters Saturday morning on TV. You got the monsters. You live in a day and age when for 20 years they've been getting you ready and preparing you to receive something that's ugly and terrible as something beautiful. It's perversion. They're teaching you if something is twisted and terrible, it's beautiful. It's not. I know that from an artistic standpoint. I'm no genius, but I've painted portraits. I know a person's face when I see it. Why, the people's concept of what is a good-looking man or a good-looking woman has changed so much in the last 30 years, you wouldn't believe it. You take Joe Namath. I guess he's one of the ugliest ducklings that ever fell out of the basket. And those Beatles, I mean, what a bunch of deformed bunch of characters. I mean, from an artistic standpoint. I mean, you got hooked nose, thick lips, receding chin. Oh, isn't he wonderful? His face would put a blister in a brick wall 40 feet. One of the most popular Hollywood stars out in Hollywood is a woman actress. I probably wouldn't give her name publicly, but that woman is just as ugly as a mud fence, man. She gets leading roles all the time. I've been in an airplane. They showed her film. The airplane made you sit there and watch that mess for 2 hours, watching her in about 50 different changes of wardrobe. Well, that woman have to have a neon sign to get somebody to look at her in public. People say, isn't she talented? She's beautiful. She's ugly as sin. And the whole thing goes that way. Now, you know what you got there? You got monsters coming up. Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, that kind of thing. Have you ever noticed when Dracula shows up, he's always connected with a woman? Have you noticed when the mummy goes out to get somebody, he goes out to get a woman? You ever notice the last time King Kong tried that Empire State Building or Trade Building, whatever it was, he had a woman? Did you ever notice that? Did you ever notice you couldn't have Frankenstein without the bride of Frankenstein? Did you ever notice that? Because every time a monster shows up, there's a woman there. Turn to Revelation 17. I mean, nothing like a King James Bible to clear up a Hollywood plot. Revelation 17. Revelation 17, verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit to the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. There's Beauty and the Beast right there. Connect with a woman. You say, where are these things from? I'll tell you where I think they're from, and if you have a Bible, we'll turn to Leviticus chapter 20, and I might be wrong what I'm about to say, but I try to judge all things by the Bible. Leviticus 20. Leviticus 20. Whatever these things are, they're monsters. You ever read much mythology? You ever read about Medusa and the Gorgon's head, you know? You ever notice all these false gods have an animal connected with them? You ever read about that sacred white cow over there in India? Or that sacred cobra over in India? That sacred cat in Egypt? You ever run through that stuff? Those animals? You know something. Years ago, there was a great kook in England called Charlie Darwin. And he founded what is known as Kookville. With Engels, Marx, Huxley, and the rest of the kooks. And that bunch got together and they said this. They said the way it started was there was just a mud puddle out there and got some heat on it, and lightning hit it a few times, like that tower Frankenstein was in. And the lightning hit that thing a few times, got the right charge going, and pretty soon you got a few amoebas there, and amino acids and proteins and building material, little DNA and RNA, and all that stuff got together, you know, and one side was a tadpole when it began to begin, and then it was a frog with the tail tucked in, and next it was a monkey in a banyan tree, and now I'm a doctor with a PhD. And they got that thing working out there where you came from an amoeba, and you had a pilgrimage from puddle to paradise. As you gradually got better and better and better and better, see? And long about the time of World War II, they began to lose their faith, brother. World War II shake you up. I mean, if man getting better and better, what was that? And so some began to backtrack, and they said, no, you can't believe in evolution anymore. I mean, if it came up this way, it couldn't have come up gradually. I mean, there must have been some revolution or some act of force to get in there and kind of help it along. Question. What time did that last monkey, that last ape, become a man? And how did he do it? I mean, here was the fellow all covered with hair. And the next bunch that come out don't have any hair on. And he's all covered with hair and can't talk. And all of a sudden he develops a faculty for speech that no other animal has. Strange business. You know what they're teaching now? They're teaching these colleges as kind of an upsurge. There has to be a place where the animal line breaks down here, and then an outside force comes in and lifts it up to here. It's a dead lift at each start. You know what they're doing? They're shooting out rockets. They're going up to Jupiter, going up to Venus, going up to the moon, going up to Mars. You know what they're trying to find out? They're going to try, what was this outside force that came in and got this thing going? Now, wouldn't that be something? I mean, suppose they got up to Jupiter someday and landed, which they probably won't, but suppose they did, and found somebody up there, and they said, listen, I was down that earth 20 million years ago, me and my friends. We call ourselves the sons of God. And we were the people that got you out of the animal stage and got you over the gap. Why, you'd have to worship them. They'd be your creator. And they'd create you by a physical act of procreation. You'd have to put that in your worship service Sunday morning. Now, wouldn't that be something? Leviticus chapter 20. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. Sex education in high school, junior high school, they call this bestiality, so everybody's familiar with it. Leviticus 20, verse 13. If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed abomination, they shall surely be put to death. Boy, what a book. Talk about hate literature. You know what that says about gay civil rights? That passage there in the law says you're supposed to kill them. What a horrible book. Imagine God writing a book like that. Too bad he isn't enlightened like this modern bunch. Verse 15, if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and you shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach any beast and lie down there too, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast, and they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. You say a thing like that really happened? Why, of course they really happened. Look at verse 22. You shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell there and spew you not out. And you shall not walk in the manner of the nations that I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. You know why God said take that old bunch and kill them, man, woman, and child? Because that's the kind of stuff that's going on in that land. And the Lord said, you kill all of them so nobody in the next generation comes up and teaches you that stuff again. Went on right there. Leviticus chapter 20. You want to be knowledgeable? Get your Bible. King James 16:11, right there. You see it? Stuff like that went on down in New Orleans to World War I. In New Orleans, they drove them out. They drove them out of Rampart Street and Canal Street and Storyville. They went up the Mississippi and the Missouri River, and they took their music with them when they went. That music came out in New York and Chicago as ragtime and swing, and it turned into rock. You've got it in your junior high school right now. That's the bunch. Now, I'm going to guess. I'm just guessing. If I was going to guess, this is what you call an uneducated guess. If I was going to guess, I would guess about the time of Noah's flood there were sons of God down here. And I would guess the Lord had a purpose in killing all those animals. Did you ever wonder why the Lord told Solomon not to go down to Egypt to get horses? Did you ever wonder why the Lord told Solomon not to go down to Egypt to get horses? Seemed like a dumb thing to tell a fella. You ever wonder why the Lord had old David take all those horses of the Syrians and cut their ham hocks so they couldn't walk? That's a terrible way to treat horses. Did you ever wonder about that? Let me tell you something, brother. This book here is the foundation of the universe. If there's a problem anywhere, it'll be right in here. And there'll be a solution for it. Right in there. You know what I think? I think when those fallen angels came down, all kinds of things went wrong. I think all flesh corrupted its way upon the earth, not just man. And the Lord drowned a whole bunch out. I think about that time somebody found a way to get off this place temporarily, or get under it temporarily. And whatever it was, wasn't just human flesh, they all drowned. And whatever it was, wasn't just animal flesh in whose nostrils was the breath of life. Whatever it was monstrosity, mutation. I think they've been around for a long time. I'll tell you something else. I think they're coming back again. You say, what's the solution? What's the solution? Don't be here when they come. Folks say, how soon this stuff going to start? I don't know how soon it's going to start. But I know if they land and take over, every Bible believer in the world, his name's going to be mud with a capital M. Now, if I were you, I'd stay prayed up, stay in fellowship with the Lord. And if I were you and I wasn't saved, I would get saved or walked out that door this morning. Now, we're going to stand to be dismissed in prayer. I'm not going to give an invitation this morning. I'm just going to put this on you and turn you loose. Like you used to say in the old radio programs, good night and pleasant dreams. They're there. Listen, listen. It isn't just elect angels, 1 Timothy. Not just fallen angels, Revelation 12. It's principalities, powers, the rulers of darkness in this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. There are 4 things up there besides angels and demons. There are 4 more different kinds, and they operate up there. All right, let's stand for prayer.